Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, Shelly's Millions. With unemployment benefits ending here in the state of California, I know a lot of you are starting to worry about your rent and how you will pay your rent. And I know that a lot of you have questions about rent relief and rental assistance through the Housing is Key program. I was able to speak with Russ Heimerich. He's the Deputy Secretary, Communications, Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency, so the Housing is Key program, and he wasn't able to do a Zoom meeting with me, which I think would have made the video more interesting, but he did allow me to ask a lot of the questions that I had about the Housing is Key program, so hopefully the questions that I had will address a lot of the questions that you have, and will hopefully help you be able to qualify for some rent relief or some rental assistance, even if you're not behind on your rent yet, but you're just worried about how you're going to pay it now that unemployment benefits have ended. That was my very first question about rent relief and rental assistance through the Housing is Key program. I wanted to know if those of you who have prioritized paying your rent through all of this and aren't behind yet could potentially qualify for assistance and help. And he said yes, that you could potentially qualify for future rent, and you could potentially qualify for up to 3 months of future rent, even if you're not behind yet. Now, the first step that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to housingiskey.com. But if you're not behind on your rent yet, don't apply online. If you try and apply online, it's going to make it seem like you would not be eligible under this program. So you're going to need to call, and that number is 833-430-2122. I'm going to read that again. That's 833-430-2122. So if you're not behind on your rent, what you're going to say when you call is, "Hi, my name is Shelly. I'm not behind on my rent yet because since I was receiving unemployment benefits, I was able to stay current on my rent. But now that my unemployment benefits have ended, I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to pay my rent in the future. Is there any way that you can help me apply for future rent?" And from there, they should be able to help you with the application process to qualify for future rent. That was kind of my next question, is just in general, how do you apply? And if you are already behind on your rent, it might work to just go ahead and apply for rent relief or rental assistance on the housingiskey.com website. But if you're not behind, but you're worried that you are going to struggle paying your rent, then that's when you'd want to call the number to apply. Before I get into some of the other specific questions that I had regarding the rent relief and rental assistance program through Housing is Key, I just want to say that I think the overall advice is, when in doubt, apply. If you think that you may fall behind in your rent, if you think that you might struggle to pay your rent, if you're already behind on your rent, then the advice that I'm going to give you is either apply online if you're behind on rent, or call and have them help you apply if you think you need help with your future rent. I have been seeing a lot of reports from people saying that they haven't been very helpful and that you practically have to be homeless before they'll even consider giving you rent relief or rental assistance. I hope that's not the case. If it is probably just like the California EDD, where sometimes you get a hold of a good rep and sometimes you get a hold of a not so good rep. And I'm almost willing to bet that this is something that our assembly members can help us with. So I will, of course, leave the link to find your assembly member in the description down below. The next question is actually from one of my viewers. I didn't know the answer at the time, but I sent a follow-up email. And that question was, is there a maximum amount of rent that they would potentially help you with? For example, if you're paying $5,000 rent, would they help you with that whole amount, or is there an upper limit? And I was told that there is not a maximum amount of rent. There's not an upper limit on the amount of your rent that they could potentially help you with. So potentially, if your rent was $5,000, they could potentially help you get that paid. While there's not a specific limit to the amount of monthly rent that the program can help with, depending on the local jurisdiction, there could be a maximum amount of funds that you could receive. For example, in Oakland, they have a cap of $15,000 of assistance per tenant. So if your rent was $5,000, that would cover 3 months worth of rent. And then after that, you wouldn't qualify for any more assistance. Many of you have asked me, if you are just renting a room in a home, can you apply for rent relief? And in that situation, definitely you'll want to call and see if you could potentially qualify, have them help you with the application process. I was told in that scenario, every case is going to be a little bit different, and so it's just going to be best to call and see if you might qualify for the program. There are income limits to qualify for rent relief or rental assistance, and in the case of roommates, they're going to look at the total household income, not just your individual income. So again, that's why you're going to want to call instead of just filling out the form online. And in terms of those income limits, even on the Housing is Key website, it says that the state will determine this when you apply, and that's because it's going to be based on the zip code that you live in and what that median income is. Because what it specifically says is, to be eligible for the aid, tenants must make less than 80% of the local median income. And it varies widely from county to county and depends on how many people live in your household. So whether you apply over the phone or whether you apply online, it will do the calculation for you based on the zip code that you live in. Some of you were wondering if you've already received rent relief and rental assistance, can you get it again? And they said that you can. They actually said that they were going to be reaching out to people themselves and seeing if they needed additional help and support. So yes, even if you have already received help with your rent, you could potentially get more help. And don't wait for them to call you though. Definitely follow up with them to get that additional assistance if you need it. I know some of you are concerned because you've already applied for rent relief, but the eviction ban is going to be ending soon, and you're worried that you won't get the money before the eviction ban lifts. And what I was told is that as long as you have applied for rent relief, even if your landlord tries to evict you, the court won't hear the case as long as you have already applied for rent relief. I then asked what would happen if the eviction ban is lifted and you find out you're not approved for rent relief or rental assistance. And unfortunately, I was told that then the eviction process could proceed. Then, of course, my next question was, why is it taking so long? And he seemed to indicate that it's because there is a lot of paperwork. You need cooperation from both the landlord and the tenant to move things through as quickly as possible, and that is what is creating a lot of the backlog on getting these funds. And then there's some cases where the landlord says that they don't want to accept the rent relief money, or they don't want to participate in the rental assistance program. And if that were the case, instead of the money going to the landlord like it normally does, they're supposed to send the money to you so that you can pay your landlord. He was careful to mention that they do have ways of confirming that you have used the funds to pay your rent. So make sure that if the money is sent to you instead of your landlord, that you use those funds to pay your rent. I hope this answered a lot of the questions that you might have had about the rent relief or rental assistance program. If you do have more questions, please leave them for me in the comments down below. While you're there, you could give the video a like. I would certainly appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for watching Shelly's Millions. I'll see you next time.